All right, let's get right into it.
This quote right here, it gets to the very heart of one of the most fascinating and kind of wild stories in modern business. It's a total paradox. How did Japan's electronics industry, the undisputed champ of the world, just fall off? The answer is pretty incredible. It wasn't because of some massive blunder. It happened because they just kept doing exactly what had always made them so successful in the first place. So we're going to start by looking at this unbelievable fall from the top, and how the very thing that defined Japanese tech, that unbeatable quality, slowly but surely turned into its greatest weakness. Let's just rewind for a second, back to the 80s and 90s. If you owned any piece of electronics, chances are it had one of these names slapped on it. Sony, Panasonic, Sharp, Toshiba, the Walkman, the Trinitron TV, you name it. And that phrase, made in Japan, that wasn't just a label, it was a promise. It meant you were getting the best quality, the coolest features, and a product that was built to last. They weren't just playing the game, they were the game.
And this total dominance? It was all built on this philosophy of product perfection. We're talking about extreme, almost obsessive precision in every single tiny component. Quality control that was just unmatched anywhere else. These devices were designed to be used for a decade, not just tossed out when the next model came along. They were basically creating industrial masterpieces you could hold in your hand.
But here's the turn. Here's where the story pivots. The problem wasn't their products. The problem was that the entire battlefield of consumer electronics was about to change completely. The world just moved on, and the rules of the game were totally rewritten, and suddenly Japan's greatest strength was no longer the thing that made you win.
And this brings us right to the core of the problem. This is where it gets really critical. We see this massive shift away from perfecting the physical thing in your hand and toward building these huge digital ecosystems around it.
Look at this. The split was just stark. Japanese companies were laser-focused on the physical object, making the TV picture a little sharper, the laptop a little thinner, cramming in more hardware features. Meanwhile, their global competitors, they were playing a totally different game. They were focused on controlling the operating system, building the app store, and capturing all that valuable user data.
So here's the bottom line. Japan was building a beautiful, high-performance car, right? But other companies were building the entire highway system, all the gas stations and the billboards, and they were collecting all the profits. It turned out making the best device became way less valuable than controlling the software and services that ran on the device.
Now, this wasn't just a simple business mistake. No, the issue is rooted deep down in the very corporate culture that had made them so successful to begin with. We're about to see how the strengths that built an empire became the walls of a prison in a new, much faster-moving world.
This right here shows the fundamental clash of values perfectly. The Japanese hardware mindset saw software as this finished thing, like an accessory that had to be perfect right out of the box. But the new global software mindset? Totally different. It was, get it out there, even if it's not perfect, then fix it and make it better based on what users are actually doing. One culture prized permanence, the other just embraced constant, rapid change.
And this cultural mindset, it created a process that was just fatally slow. See, in these big Japanese corporations, major decisions required this meticulous group consensus through systems they called ringi and gogi. It's an excellent process for avoiding failure when you're building hardware for the long haul. But in the software world, where a whole market can appear and vanish in a few months, it just meant they were always a step behind.
And the real tragedy is, it wasn't because they lacked ideas. The concepts for smart TVs, smart homes, even smartphone operating systems, they all existed inside these Japanese companies. But by the time that slow, consensus-driven decision was finally made to go for it, the market had already been captured by someone faster and more agile. But the story doesn't end there. Japan's tech industry didn't just fade away, not at all. It went through this profound strategic pivot, completely transforming its role in the global tech world, from being the visible king to the invisible but absolutely indispensable kingmaker.
This chart shows that transformation perfectly. While consumer electronics used to be the main event, the focus has completely shifted. They moved away from making the finished products you'd buy in a store and toward making the hyper-advanced critical components that go inside everyone else's products. Today, Japan is an absolute powerhouse in the tech that works behind the scenes. That same obsession with quality is now being applied to specialized sensors, advanced new materials, and precision machinery that are totally essential for building smartphones, cars, and medical devices all over the world.
They basically became the indispensable suppliers, powering their old rivals.
So why does this story from the past matter so much today? Well, because this isn't just some business history lesson. It's a timeless, universal case study about the dangers of success and the absolute necessity of being able to adapt.
And this is not a uniquely Japanese thing. Think about Nokia, right? They perfected the feature phone just as the smartphone revolution was kicking off. Or BlackBerry, who mastered physical keyboards while the whole world was moving to touchscreens. This curse of success is a trap that any dominant organization can fall into when it gets too comfortable and too rigid.
This quote just sums it all up, doesn't it? They weren't lost. They were following the map that had led them to incredible success. The problem was, they got to the end of their perfectly paved road, only to look up and realize the rest of the world had started flying airplanes instead.
And that brings the lesson right to our doorstep. This story is basically a mirror for any company, any team, or heck, any one of us who feels confident that we are doing things the right way. It's a powerful reminder that your greatest strength today can become your biggest liability tomorrow if you fail to see how the world is changing around you.
And so, this explainer leaves us all with a pretty critical question to think about. We all face constant change, in our jobs, in our lives. But when we are confronted with that next big change, that next fundamental shift, are we actually ready to let go of what made us successful and act